Diane's got it. The Wizard of Oz.
Good.
Ready? Great. Good evening. I'm going to call to order the November 27th Planning and Zoning Board regular meeting. Diane, can you please call the roll?
Chris Brown? Absent. Aaron Savage?
Present.
Christina Morrison?
Here.
Julie Blankenship?
Here.
Allison Thomas?
Here.
Gregory Snyder?
Here.
Morris Christopherson?
Here.
Thank you.
Staff or board members, do you have any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Board members?
No.
There's no proposed changes. Could I please get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Diane?
Chris Brown? Absent. Aaron Savage?
Present.
No.
Is it-
Yes. Yes.
Yes. No.
Christina Morrison?
Yes.
Julie Blankenship?
Yes.
Allison Thomas?
Yes.
Gregory Snyder?
Yes.
Morris Christopherson?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the election of officers. We'll have a chair, a vice chair, and a second vice chair. I know Mr. Brown is absent, but absent board members can still be appointed for a position if someone chooses. The way we'll conduct the election is I'll start with the chair. I'll ask for a nomination. That nomination needs a second. I'll ask for any additional nominations. That nomination will need a second as well. And depending on how many appointments or proposed individuals we have, we'll discuss how the voting process will be. So I'll start with the chair for the Planning and Zoning Board. Do I have any nominations?
Nominate Julian. Oh, go ahead.
Same.
So I
Julian
had
Blankenship.
Ms. Morrison nominate Ms. Blankenship, and Ms. Thomas seconded that.
Yes.
Are there any additional nominations for chair? Diane, could you please call the roll?
Chris Brown absent. Aaron Savage?
Yes.
Christina Morrison?
Yes.
Julie Blankenship?
Yes.
Allison Thomas?
Yes.
Gregory Snyder?
Yes.
Morris Christopherson?
Yes.
Congratulations, Ms. Blankenship. Would you like to take over the election, or would you like me to proceed through the item?
Proceed.
Great. So the next position we'll accept nominations for is the vice chair. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Christina Morrison.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any additional nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, Diane, please call the roll.
Chris Brown absent. Aaron Savage?
Yes.
Christina Morrison?
Yes.
Julie Blankenship?
Yes.
Allison Thomas?
Yes.
Gregory Snyder?
Yes.
Morris Christopherson?
Yes.
Congratulations, Ms. Morrison. And now I'm accepting nominations for second vice chair.
I nominate Allison Thomas.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any additional nominations for second vice chair? Diane, please call the roll.
Chris Brown absent. Aaron Savage?
Yes.
Christina Morrison?
Yes.
Julie Blankenship?
Yes.
Allison Thomas?
Yes.
Gregory Snyder?
Yes.
Morris Christopherson?
Yes.
And congratulations, Ms. Thomas. Chair, I now lead the meeting to you.
Thank you. Should we change spots?
Yes. So you're
And I think the deputy vice chair. I'm going to sit next to you.
I know.
Christina needs to go there.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think Ms. Thomas takes Mr. Snyder's seat.
Yep.
Or does Ms. Thomas
What's that?
slides over one, Diane?
What are we doing?
We're playing musical chairs. You're moving here.
I'm moving. That's all I
Morris
needed.
moves where you were.
Okay.
Julie moves where Morris was. I think Morris moves where Allison. Allison is Christina sits in. Oh, I sit here. Okay.
Yeah, you go there. You're the
Okay. Got it.
vice, whatever it is.
Whatever.
Number 2.
Either way, Delray Vice.
You get confused between the deputies and the vices. Okay.
Diane, do we have the rules?
Snyder.
You got it, Chris? Here. That's all right.
That's fine.
You wanna see if we can vote?
No, it's all right. I'm good.
Okay, are we ready? You want me to help you?
I'm good.
Where are we at, Mr. Bennett?
Item number 5, minutes from September 26th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Diane, call the roll.
Chris Brown, absent. Aaron Savage,
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
Joan Blankenship,
Yes.
Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Gregory Snyder,
Yes.
Morris Costarfin.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I think we need to go back to 4A on the agenda, which was an election of a member of the board to serve on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. So do I have a nomination for that board? Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Can you talk about that, Rebecca, a little?
Sure. The Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meets a few times a year, usually no more than 6, and they give specifically, they advise on the policies that are in the Local Housing Assistance Plan, which is what directs how the state, the SHIP funds, which stands for State Housing
Initiative
Program. So that plan that the board gives advice on is adopted and sent to the state, and that governs how the city uses SHIP funds, and they can also provide advice on different other affordable housing matters in the city, such as the LDRs and things like that. So if this is a particular interest area of you, this would be a great opportunity to be involved on that.
Mr. Costarfin said he would like to serve on this, if I can get a nomination. please.
Motion for Morris to serve.
Second.
Diane, could you call the roll, please?
And who is,
Oh, I'm sorry, Morris Costarfin.
Chris Brown, absent. Aaron Savage,
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
Joan Blankenship,
Yes.
Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Gregory Snyder,
Yes.
Morris Costarfin.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Costarfin. We are at agenda item number 6, swearing in of the public. If you are here this evening and wish to speak on a non-agenda item, now would be the time to stand and be sworn. Or is that for every agenda item, Mr. Bennett?
Agenda items,
For
yeah.
agenda items?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you plan on speaking tonight on any item, especially agenda items, please stand up and be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand by the authority vested in me, the notary of the state of Florida. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And now is the portion where we take comments on non-agenda items. So if you have a comment on anything that is not on the agenda this evening, now would be the time to speak. And if you would like to speak, you can come to the podium to my left, your right. Seeing none, public comment is closed. No presentations. I'll read the rules of quasi-judicial hearing rules into the record. The hearing shall be conducted in accordance with the City of Delray Beach quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be permitted to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes if the person represents an organization or a group of people who are present but agree not to speak. The city commission, board members, staff, and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not legally be made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the numbers of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. And so we go to 9A, quasi-judicial hearing items. And I believe, is it Ms. Booth?
It's Buse.
Buse, I'm sorry. You
That's
think I would know
all
that
right.
by now. My apologies.
No problem. This is item number 2023-200, and it is 318 Southeast 5th Avenue, and it is a recommendation for a final plat. and the applicant is here.
Thank you. You may
Good evening,
proceed.
board members. Can you hear me okay? First of all, congratulations for the new members.
Thank you. And while you're getting set up, I'll just ask my colleagues if there's any ex parte communication.
No.
I visited the site.
Yeah, I know the site well, and I heard this presentation at Sprout.
Same. Mr. Morrison? Mr. Karstoffen?
I'm good.
Mr. Bennett? I think we're okay. Thank you.
Ready?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good evening. For the record, Jexy Chamber, Principal Planner of Urbana, located at 950 Peninsula Corporate Circle, Suite 1017, Boca Raton, Florida, 33487. And I'm here this evening on behalf of the property owners, 318 Southeast 5th Avenue, LLC. With me this evening is Michael Boxman, in case you have any question for ownership. Again, we're here this evening to present to you the final plat for a development that has already been approved by your board. A little bit about this parcel. It is a little bit under an acre, located on the southeast corner or southeast 3rd Street and southeast 5th Avenue. It has an existing land use designation of mixed-use commercial core with a zoning designation of mixed-use central business districts, as well as the central core subdistrict. This parcel is composed of 6 different parcels, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of background. There is not actually a development order for each one of these all parcels within the city of Delray. However, there were development at some point. So parcel 1 and 2 has a duplex developed in 1948 that was demolished in 2018. Parcel 3 and 4 has a multifamily building that was constructed in 1952, again demolished in 2018. Lot number 5 has a single family home that was built in 1953, again demolished also in 2018. The last parcel has a single family home with about 800 square feet of commercial building, and that was constructed in 1912. The commercial building is still up today. It's a requirement and actually a condition of approval as part of the past development to demolish that structure. Permit is currently under review and about to be approved. Once it's approved, this building will be demolished so they can start the construction of the new mixed-use development. The most recently combined out of all these parts of development order was early this year for a Class 5 site plan with no condition that was approved by the Site Plan Review and Appearance Board for a 4-story mixed-use development containing about a little bit under 4,500 square feet of commercial uses on the ground and 26 multifamily units with amenities on the upper floors. Again, I'm in front of you this evening requesting final approval to combine this lot 1 through 6 of the Osceola Park plat and make it one plat to build the proposed development that has already been approved. This is the plat that is presented in front of you today. It's been actually subdivided by 3 different mini parcels. The main parcel is, again, 38,000 square feet. This is the developed parcel. This is where the entire mixed-use development will be held, or built, actually. There is a track, a right-of-way track, about 1,200 square feet that will be dedicated to the city for strict and utility purposes. And there is also a minor track, which is the right-of-way track number 1, which will be dedicated, about 63 square feet will be dedicated to FDOT in perpetuity for public roadway use. Your staff, your multiple developments by the city of Delray has reviewed this plat, and they have determined that this final plat is consistent with the goal, objectives, and policies of the Always Delray Comprehensive Plan, and specific with the major subdivision, the land map, and the concurrency. I believe there were no conditions, and Jennifer, I guess you can confirm, but there was no conditions presented for this plat, and that's what I have for this evening. We're here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Buse?
Okay, I have a pretty much similar presentation. This is, again, file 2023-200, and it is a recommendation to the City Commission for the certification of a final plat. Here is a bit of the background that Jexy went through. It is in the CBD zoning district with a land use of commercial core. The adjacent zoning is to the northeast and south is CBD, west is single family residential, which is Osceola Park, and the proposed use is mixed use retail and residential. This is the property history, and I just put in here the original plat, which Osceola is one of the oldest plats in Delray. I think it was about 1912. And then just this shows you the configurations of the lots through the years. Again, this is the proposed plat with the square footage. And this is just a larger version where, again, it shows the right-of-way dedications. The land use is, as I said before, commercial core, and the zoning is CBD. Required findings do have to be found for a plat, and 4 different areas. That's the land use map, and the concurrency, consistency, and compliance with LDRs. So the concurrency was analyzed in the site plan review and appearance board and found to be in compliance. These are some of the comprehensive plans. There's about 8 in the report. These just show a little bit of the neighborhood, housing, and the mobility. As stated before, this property is located within the Osceola Park neighborhood redevelopment. It does encourage adaptive reuse and infill developments while also respecting the single-family character of the community. As you can see here in this photo, you have, I believe this is a loft, and you have retail office, townhomes, and then right behind it, in an alley that did do a dedication, is single-family residence. Courtesy notices were sent out, and City Commission does have the final action. And with a major subdivision, this changed just a little bit with our new LDRs. It still involves both Planning and Zoning Board and City Commission, but at this time, there's no preliminary plat. It's just a recommendation to the City Commission. These are your board actions, and that concludes my presentation. Oh, one more thing. There is one condition when the plat does go to City Commission. The Mylar will not be signed until the structure on Lot 6 has been removed. Let me go back to that so I can show you really quickly. Lot 6 is right down here. And once they have a certificate of completion, then the Mylar can be signed by everyone and recorded with Palm Beach County.
Thank you. Do I have any cross-examination or rebuttal?
Chair, public comment first, please.
Oh, yes, thank you so much. Public comment on this item? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Now rebuttal or cross-examination from either the applicant or the city? No.
I do not.
I'm sorry. I know, but if you could
No,
say.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much.
And we're in agreement with her condition of approval.
Okay, thank you so much.
Does the condition have to be noted in the board action?
Mr. Bennett?
Mr. Attorney?
No, so there's a resolution that's paired with this item, and the resolution will specifically dictate that it won't be effective or that the plat will not be recorded, signed and recorded until that happens. So it's more like a technical note than it is a condition of the approval.
To the board?
Yeah, I don't think there's much to this because the site plan's already been approved, but it certainly points out why the LDRs were reasonably extremely modified, because it doesn't make sense for us to do a plat after the site plan's been approved. I don't think, but it's, as we're in that situation, that's what we have to do, and I don't see any reason not to.
Staff, the right-of-way along the alley, is that to make the alley wider?
Correct. An alley is 20 feet, so if the alley is not at 20 feet, each side, as they come in, has to dedicate 2 feet. And I might be wrong on that. Is commercial all 4 feet?
If there's a residential zoning district abutting a commercial zoning district, it's typically taken only from the commercial side, not the residential. Instead of splitting it, if it was residential to residential or commercial to commercial, we just take from each half.
Got it. So will this make the alley compliant with the 20-foot?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thomas?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Mr. Gustafson? No? Mr. Savage?
I'm good.
Entertain a motion?
Recommend approval of the City Commission for the certification of the final plat, Black Star 318 Southeast Fifth Avenue, associated with the creation of a single for the properties currently addressed as 302, 318, 338, and 346 Southeast Fifth Avenue, finding that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets criteria set forth in the land development regulations.
Second.
And Diane, could you please call the roll?
Chris Brown absent. Aaron Savage.
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
June Blankenship.
Yes.
Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Gregory Snyder.
Yes.
Lawrence Costardo.
Yes.
Have a good night.
You too, thank you. Thank you. Moving on to 9B, Ref to Fluff Pet Salon. Ms. Dalsery. Do we have any ex parte communication on this item? Mr. Snyder?
Yeah, I visited and I talked to two of the adjoining business owners.
I know the site well.
You know the site.
So you say you spoke with two?
I spoke to two of the business owners in the shopping center, yeah.
Any ex parte from anyone else?
I know the site.
Thank you. Ms. Dawson? Oh, hello. How are you, Mrs. Rosenberg?
I'm well. Good evening. I'd like to enter file number 2023-274 into the record, which is a conditional use request for a pet grooming service at 14420 South Military Trail. And we're here with Natalia Lenzi and Ryan Throne, who are the agents for the application.
ENC with an I.
Thank you so much. We'll
Thanks.
note that. The floor is yours. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board and everyone present. We appreciate the opportunity to present. I'm Ryan Cerrone, and this is Natalia.
Hi, I'm Natalia. I'm the founder of Ref to Fluff Pet Salon, and Brian is my COO. He'll be taking care of the presentation today. I am deaf, so I cannot hear you guys, so he'll be taking over for me today.
All right, I got it, honey. All right, so we're here for a conditional use permit application. That's actually our official logo right there. That's a huge painting, 5 feet by 4 feet wide, so I thought I would include that. As far as a little bit of background, foundations of business, so Natalia has done over 20,000 grooms over the last 7 years, spanning the areas of Delray Beach, Boca Raton, Lake Worth. She has a strong working knowledge of business operations in running a pet grooming business, because she's worked in 4 different local pet grooming salons that are all in high demand. I know that she works weekends right now as well, and essentially her client base comes to wherever she is. She's always getting calls, always getting texts, and I hate to see my girlfriend have to work on weekends, but she's extremely committed, and wherever she is, people just come and ask for her by name. She's accumulated over 400 recurring pet owner clients. She's Florida certified, which in the state of Florida, you do not have to be certified to be a professional pet groomer, but she is from the Merrifield Pet Grooming Academy in Fort Lauderdale. And as a disabled person, as long as I've known Natalia, we've been in a committed relationship for 2 years, she has just found this unique bond and a passion and a trust, and it's a healing factor in working with animals due to her hearing disability that she could not find anywhere else. So I'm really honored to be presenting this here today and to hopefully usher in and deliver her dream coming true right now. So a little bit of background. I'll try to go through this quickly. Since we're representing an organization, I know it's 6 minutes. I'll try to do this quick. 95% of U.S. pet owners consider pets to be actual family members, not just a pet anymore. In 2020, salon grooming services segment accounted for 78% of all U.S. pet grooming market, which means that people are moving towards premium pet care and premium quality. Some of the major growth reasons: people are adopting a lot more animals. They're very heavily involved in rescue organizations and rescue activist groups. Emotional support animal trends is definitely a growing, burgeoning area of pets, and that's kind of from like the field of psychology and doctor and mental health. There's also higher demands subsequently for pet well-being. healthcare for the pet, hygiene, and appearance. So Rough to Fluff's market stance in response to all of this is we're family owned, family backed, family operated, one-on-one, cageless with bilingual English-Spanish staff. Safety, cleanliness, professionalism, and attention to detail are the top priorities at Rough to Fluff Pet Salon. We are positioned to have only scheduled drop-off pickup grooming. So if somebody is a walk-in, that's great. We would love to take you. You must make an appointment, and we'll send them back, and then they can come back when their appointment is ready. No pet taxi, no boarding, no daycare, no veterinary medicine will be practiced in the facility. Another part of the market stance is longevity. This is a generational shopping center. We have signed a 5-year lease with the landlord, and we've had several meetings with him, and we've developed a pretty close relationship in getting the location ready for a dog grooming salon, or pet grooming salon, I should say, because she accommodates cats as well. We'll be open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Sunday's closed for the Sabbath because we go to church. So Delray Beach in particular, this is where Natalia has just encountered such profound opportunity. 60% of U.S. households with annual incomes above $80,000 have pets. 25% of that, or a quarter of that, are either a dog or a cat. Palm Beach County stats report that within a 5-mile radius of the Atlantic and Military location at the shops of Delray, the median income is twice that. Most of Natalia's clients have 2 to 3 dogs or cats. The nearest premium quality grooming salon is 4 miles away in downtown Delray. Local salons are booked 1 to 2 months out. There's a high demand for this. Clients don't want to drive through downtown Delray traffic. It's a nightmare to try to find parking. So opening Rough to Fluff Pet Salon's location on the kind of close to Atlantic and Military provides an immediate convenience factor to the clientele that know about Natalia and her services. As far as the business viability, I've kind of just addressed that. It provides an additional option. Folks won't have to drive downtown. And we have all of the licensing, the certification, the insurance. Natalia has the reputation, the followers, existing customer base for immediate launch and long-term growth. On Natalia's Instagram page, she has over 1,000 followers. Most of them are actual clients or people that she has groomed their animals, either a dog or a cat, and they come back on average every 6 to 8 weeks for a full groom. This is just kind of like, it made business sense at this point that she's getting so many calls, such a high volume of folks constantly calling her and texting her, that it made sense for her to rise from employee to the employer and open her own store by popular demand, and as a natural progression in her field. And then that's an actual QR code if anyone would like to scan it. So pricing, I'll go over this very quickly. It varies greatly based on the size of the animal, the breed, the age, the condition of the animal, and the temperament. So here's just a quick summary on pricing and packages that will be proposed. Again, this varies significantly based on primarily the size and the breed and the condition of the animal. A la carte offerings for a la carte services. Like some clients come in and they just need a quick touch up, or just the paw pads, or just the nails to be trimmed, or they want those special services to be added, like a really nice conditioning or a lathering type treatment for their animal. As I mentioned, we're positioned as a premium quality pet grooming salon, which I think coincides very well with the prestige of Delray Beach. And then we are definitely going to be offering some discounts that recognize certain people in the community of Delray Beach. So senior citizens will automatically get a 10% discount. Any active duty or veteran military personnel will automatically receive a 15% discount.
Excuse me. Hi, you're coming up on your time limit, so if you could just wrap everything up really quickly,
Sure.
that would be great. Thank
All
you.
right. Registered emotional support animals, we definitely are big proponents of that. Students, and there we go.
Hang on 1 minute, we'll get you back.
All right, that's fine. I timed myself. I think I'm going a little. We're nearly at the end.
That's fine. We want to make sure you get a chance to
All right. So that was the end of that slide. Okay. So, and certified rescue pets. Again, if the customer can furnish documentation and real evidence to substantiate it is a registered emotional support animal or a certified rescue pet, we'll honor discounts for them as well. And then I think what we're most excited about is we went to the third annual Pooches and Presents in the Park that was recently held, and we met with the leadership team of All for One Pet Rescue. So for our first volunteer and philanthropic initiative, we're going to be providing free grooms to groups of their rescue pets once per quarter to get them looking their best and ready for adoption. And they said that would be a huge help for them. So this is a list of their current and active partnership organizations, and we're going to be really excited to see our logo on their website so we can help provide free grooms to those pets. And we haven't found anyone else who is offering a service similar to that. So that would make a big difference. And that's our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Ms. Rosenberg?
All right, good evening again. So just going over the property information. So again, the property is located at 14420 South Military Trail. It's about an 850 square foot commercial space within the Shops of Del Rey Shopping Center, whose main address is 14400 South Military Trail. The shopping center was constructed in 1975 on a 2.4 acre parcel with approximately 23,827 square feet of commercial space. The property is zoned general commercial and also has a land use designation of general commercial. Just giving some context and showing the surrounding areas. So there's a commercial plaza to the south. We have multifamily to the west, which is the Fountains at Delray neighborhood. The Boys Market, which is commercial, is to the north. And there's agriculture and single family to the east. Here's also a close-up of the commercial space. I just wanted to note this picture was taken prior to some recent facade updates for the whole plaza. The applicant is requesting a conditional use to establish Rough to Fluff Pet Salon, which is a pet grooming service. The business is going to be performing standard dog grooming services and operate from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, being closed on Sundays. All business operations are going to be taking place indoors with no pet boarding or overnight stay, and no outdoor use area or additional floor area is proposed as part of this request. Here's the proposed floor plan. So the space is going to include a front reception area, 4 grooming tables, and a bath and drying station in the back. And now just jumping into the analysis. So the land development regulations state that the findings must be made ensuring that the conditional use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the stability of the neighborhood and will not hinder the development or redevelopment of nearby properties. The board's recommendation to the City Commission must take into consideration whether or not the required development standards specific to pet services are sufficient to prevent any significant or detrimental effect upon the stability of the neighborhood or hinder the development of nearby properties. So just going into some of the required findings, LDR section 3.1.1 lists the required findings for approval of all development applications. So as it relates to the land use map, the general commercial zoning district is a preferred zoning district of the general commercial land use designation, and it does permit pet services through a conditional use application. Going into the concurrency, so the proposal meets the concurrency standards of the Always Delray Comprehensive Plan. And just touching on traffic, the traffic impact analysis and the traffic performance standards letter from Palm Beach County do conclude that the proposed project will not generate additional trips and therefore meets the traffic performance standards of Palm Beach County. Regarding consistency with the comprehensive plan, the proposed use is one of the range of activities supported in the general commercial zoning district. It's also provided that it's not detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood and future development. It's also considered a needed services to residents and promotes job creation, which also supports the economic policies of the comprehensive plan. And since the use is proposed within an existing commercial space, the scale and intensity is not will remain the same and is not intended to change. And lastly, criterion D requires compliance with the land development regulation, which has specific regulations for domestic animal services. Staff's analysis is in Appendix A of the staff report, and overall the use is not anticipated to pose negative impacts on the surrounding properties. The applicable regulations to this business include restricted hours of operation, indoor services being closed with solid core doors, and limiting outside activities. And so the business is operating within the allowed business hours of operation. It is enclosed with solid core doors, insulating the noise and any odor, and no outdoor activities aside from the animal drop-off and pickup are proposed. An additional conditional use application would be required if any of these if outdoor uses were proposed later in the future. Additionally, pet services are required to provide 4.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet, which equates to about 4 spaces for the subject space. And since the subject space is within a larger shopping plaza, the code requires 4 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area, which is a total of 95 parking spaces. And based on the latest survey from July 24th, 2023, the shopping plaza contains 120 parking spaces, which exceeds the minimum requirement by 25 spaces. These are your options, or your board options, and that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosenberg. Now is the time for public comments. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item, now is the time. Seeing and hearing none, public comment is closed. Is there any cross-examination or rebuttal for either the applicant or the city? Do you have anything to say to the city about what they said about your project, or are you good with that?
No, I think that was great. It looked really impressive. It was an awesome outline. Yeah, we would be honored to represent the city of Delray Beach with everything, not only from, again, bringing another option for premium quality pet care, but also to get a little bit more involved in the community as time goes on. We only had the chance to meet with the one leader of that particular organization, but yeah, we would look forward to being able to open and getting a little bit more involved in, giving back to the community as well.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Rosenberg?
No rebuttal from the city.
Thank you. To the board. Mr. Snyder?
Not really much to say. I did say I spoke to 2 of the business owners in that complex, and they did not object. They're quite happy to have it. And there's a tailor shop in there now. I think the pet thing will be a great addition.
Well, first of all, thank you for bringing your business to Delray Beach, Natalia. Good choice. Very good place for your business. I just have a question for staff. We recently approved a pet business less than a mile from here. There's no locational restrictions for this type of business like some of the other businesses in town?
There is not.
Good. Okay, that's good. That's good. And I just want to confirm that your grooming is limited to cutting and trimming and washing and fluffing. You don't, and cutting nails and things like that.
Natalia is certified in pet non-anesthetic dental cleaning, which is a non-medical treatment, but that's not the focus of the salon. That's not the focus of the salon.
Are drugs involved when you?
No, non-anesthetic.
Non-anesthetic.
So
okay.
the dog or cat is swaddled in a blanket, and it's like a water toothpick, a water pick. Oh. So it would be the same as a lot of pet grooming salons will use a toothbrush, which is actually more abrasive to the animal than using a water pick.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your detailed presentation. It was
Thank you.
well done, and we appreciate you picking Delray Beach to put in your business.
Thank you.
The only question I have is there, I guess it's for staff, there's no restriction about the close proximity of another pet grooming in that area, correct?
There is not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Savage? Thank you. My only question for the applicant would be if you have to walk an animal, is there a place for them to go to the restroom, or will you just use waste bags and pick it up?
It'll just be local waste bag and a hazardous material contamination little box, a regular trash receptacle. But we will run a very tight schedule for drop off and pickup. So there's not like a waiting lobby for anyone to come and like lounge.
Okay.
It will just be your animals dropped off, and then with the software that I'm going to implement, they'll get a text notification your pet is almost ready to be picked up, and then it'll be picked up. So if there is a mess, then we will just clean it and put it in a special receptacle and
That's
then take
perfect.
that out.
Just want to make sure you're going to be good neighbors and that we don't have
course.
any complaints going forward.
Yeah.
But you know how things get. So
Of course.
just make sure you had a plan.
We've introduced ourselves to some of the other tenants,
Okay,
and
great.
they're very friendly, like Brenda's Birds, and there's a Turtle Tavern.
Mhm.
There's an interesting crowd there. So yeah, I mean, everyone seems to be all for it, and we're really excited, and we just want to do good work.
Excellent.
And,
Thank you so much, sir.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion unless there's other further comments.
Yeah, move to recommend approval to the City Commission of a conditional use request for Rough to Fluff to allow a pet grooming service at the property located at 14420 South Military Trail, finding that the request is consistent with the land development regulations and the comprehensive plan.
Second.
Diane, please call the roll.
Chris Brown absent. Karen Savage.
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
Julian Blankenship.
Yes.
Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Gregory Snyder.
Yes.
Morris Christopherson.
Yes.
Congratulations. And we love your menu choices.
Yes.
So cute, potty cures and things. Very nice. Good luck. Good luck.
Oh, my God.
So cute.
You can talk to staff. Maybe she can tell you the next steps on that. Thank you so much.
Because we're close.
Yes. We are at 9C, Delray Swan. Mr. Gdanik, if you'd like to read it into the record when you have a moment. Thank you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right here.
And while we're waiting to get everything set up, could I ask my colleagues for ex parte communication, please?
Sure, I know the site. I think I sold a property within that little strip, and I talked to Neil earlier today.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I visited.
It was before Sprad.
None. None for me. I mean, I know this site, obviously.
All right.
Oh, Miss Rose, I thought it was Mr. Gdanik. I saw this.
You're getting both.
Oh,
A 2
okay,
for 1
please.
special.
Oh, my
So
God.
Alexis
Double
Rosenberg
trouble.
again.
Yeah.
And Julian Gdanik, both senior planners for the record. And we'd like to enter in city case file number 2022-063. And we're here with Mr. Schiller, who's the agent for the application.
Mr. Schiller, if you just give me one moment. Mr. Bennett, since this is the first time we're seeing a site floor kind of site plan, did you want to give us, this maybe say something before we start listening to the presentation about what we're looking at? Just for...
I actually probably need to do that less.
Because
in the past, typically what would come before Planning and Zoning Board would be a conditional use or a waiver or just a small portion of the aspect of the entire plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we really wouldn't be looking at the site plan, the architectural elevations. It'd be things that Neil would get side-eye from me because there'd be a couple slides with them in it. But now today's a new day. So it will be a complete review by this board of the entire project, and it's including the density increase request. Because of the density increase request, this will merely be a recommendation, but it's a recommendation on the entire package, which will then go to City Commission, who will then make make their findings and decisions on the entire package as well. So tonight's a little different. I probably will not have to ask you to defer certain questions or not look at certain things. It's really the entire project's before you, and you guys should keep that in mind as you're watching the presentations.
Thank you. Mr. Schiller, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and Madam Deputy Vice Chair. It's great to have 3 women leading this board. So my name is Neil Schiller. I'm with Government Law Group, 137 Northwest 1st Avenue, right across the street from City Hall. With me tonight is Jeff Costello, our planner on the project, and Cliff Rosen, the developer of the project and property owner. Tonight we're here to ask that you please recommend approval on the site plan, the landscape plan, the architectural standards, and the incentive program, that density that Mr. Bennett was talking about. And we believe all criteria have been met for approval and are prepared to show you. So this outline in blue is the project area. It essentially takes up the whole block, located on the corner of 2nd and 2nd, Southeast 2nd Street and Southeast 2nd Avenue, right along the railroad tracks right here. You can see that the property appraiser is still showing several of these single-family homes, and Mr. Rosen and his team acquired all of the properties on the block to basically create a whole block development. There are just 2 properties that we don't have, the Mark building right here, and Mr. Ford's property down here, and we'll get to that later in the presentation. A little bit about Southeast 2nd Avenue prior to the development of this project and to the development of the parking lot along the FEC Railroad, that there were significant driveways inhibiting or backing out into Southeast 2nd Avenue, which is extremely unsafe, as also there is a little sidewalk located on the northern end of the block that will change with our project, as I'll get to that and show you. And again, a significant unsafe traffic issue with all those cars backing up onto the street. Currently, my client, at his expense and under a lease with FEC, created and installed parking, new paid parking along the FEC Railroad, which I think will not only bring some attractiveness to the area, but also creates additional parking that really wasn't there. So here are some renderings. These are the pictures Mr. Bennett was alluding to, which we're fully allowed to show tonight. And
this
proudly.
almost feels not right that we get to look at it.
I know, but these renderings are sort of new, and so this is a rendering looking from the corner of 2nd and 2nd to the southwest, and you can see the Public Civic Plaza right here. You can see our commercial area, which has been the subject of some discussion and will be again tonight. You can see the arcade, the cover arcade that covers the sidewalk, which is a new expanded sidewalk, and again, doesn't necessarily exist there today, as well as some of the beautiful trees and landscaping that we've proposed. On the opposite corner, you get the additional, this is looking from 1st and 3rd, the corner of 1st and 3rd, looking to the northeast. You can see our Civic Plaza here, which is substantial, as well as additional trees and the interplay on that corner at that corner, which I think is pretty substantial and pretty dramatic. This is a western view of the project as a whole. This is Mr. Ford's property right here. And as a part of a previous meeting, we've agreed to install a sidewalk down there, so that in front of his property, so that there's a continuous sidewalk connection. Here you can see, again, the arcade, the covered walkway, and moving into our trash collection area and our loading zone. And then a few doors down is the lobby and entrance. There's also additional on-street parking spaces that you can see here as part of the rendering. We've actually included 30 additional on-street parking spaces as part of this project. And then you have the eastern view of our rendering. western view, sorry. The western view of our rendering, where you can see, again, more additional landscaping. This is that Civic Plaza we just showed you. And then you can see where the pool court is and the recreation amenities are for the project. And then just to the north of here is the Mark Building. And again, was subject to discussion at the City Commission several meetings ago, in which we've agreed to establish the sidewalk connection around the whole block, working with staff to figure out the right sidewalk and when and how to install it. So the development program, it may look like a big piece of property, but it's just 2.36 acres in the downtown, in the central business district, railroad corridor. We're proposing a floor area ratio of 2.9, and the maximum that we are allowed is 3.0. Our height is 5 stories. Our architectural style, which we'll get to, is Anglo-Caribbean. The commercial area, which I showed you in our rendering, is just under 3,000 square feet. And then we're proposing 165 total residential units. 20% or 33 of those are dedicated workforce housing units. And you can see the unit breakdown below. 76 one bedrooms, 75 two bedrooms, and 14 three bedrooms. And then you can see 15, 15, and 3. Those are the workforce housing units that are dedicated for each of those unit types. And then additionally, as I'll get to under the incentive portion, each of those workforce housing units is going to be across the 3 standards of Palm Beach County: very low, low, and moderate. Open space, we're proposing 7,320 square feet, where only 6,000 or just under 6,000 square feet is required. And again, parking spaces, 296 are proposed, and 290 are required with an additional 30 on-street spaces. So that was a lot for me. I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to invite Jeff to come up and walk you through the site plan.
Just a quick reminder, there's still 10 minutes for this presentation, so you have about 4 more minutes to go.
Thank you.
Congratulations, board. Jeff Costello, JC Planning Solutions, representing the applicant. Just to move forward, just walk you through the site plan. So as Neil did indicate about the 2 civic open spaces, there's approximately 3,400 square feet in the southwest corner, 39 at the north side. This includes, includes 5-foot right-of-way dedication along First Avenue, as well as 10-foot right-of-way dedication along Second Avenue, and the corner clips as required. The required streetscape improvements will be provided around the entirety of the project. Includes parallel parking in compliance with the city standards. Also, as Neil indicated, there will be the extension of the sidewalk adjacent to the Shutter Building along First Avenue and adjacent to the Ford property on Second Avenue. Again, the design is very sensitive to the lower density residential to the west. When this was rezoned, the First Avenue was considered a primary street. Can't have no vehicular access along that street, and Second Street is also a primary access. And so, as Neil stated, the access to the site, to the garage, to the loading, and so forth, are on Second Avenue, abutting the FEC right away. Basically, that whole design is very sensitive to our loader density, and the step backs are provided on First Avenue. So that in general covers all of it. It's important to note, though, the fact that where this is located and based on the code provision, these units you cannot contribute to the Housing Trust Fund. You have to provide them on site. So it's a guarantee that these units will be provided on site in conjunction with the construction of this development. Required findings, consistency with the land use map. Again, this is the preferred zoning, CBD with the commercial core, and this is the Osceola this railroad corridor sub-district. The property is zoned accordingly. Rezoning occurred in 2021 related to those properties facing First Avenue. Concurrency, just a minor correction. That traffic, actually, 833 new daily trips will be generated. There's established grid system in the downtown corridor. The residential component is exempt from traffic concurrency. This is adjacent to the TCEA, and there are no issues or concerns with regard to the impacts on the surrounding roadway network. Comprehensive plan, the water and sewer, there's adequate capacity. There are going to be significant public improvements to the infrastructure, city's infrastructure related to this development as required, and there are no other concerns with regard to concurrency. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. There are numerous goals, objectives, and policies cited that this is consistent with, primarily the neighborhood districts and corridors element, the housing element, as well as the economic prosperity element. There is a commercial component, and it's limited, but it's 3,000 square feet and abuts Second Street, which is, if you notice, there's a lot of commercial activity along that
Mr.
street.
Costello, how much time do you think that you guys have all together to finish your presentation?
I'm going to pass it up to
Mr. Schiller, how much time do you need?
We probably need like 8 minutes.
Would my colleagues be willing to extend their presentation time?
Yes.
Is that okay,
Sure.
Mr. Bennett?
No, it's absolutely within the board's discretion.
I just think it's a lot of information.
Yeah, and I think it would be appropriate, especially with the change and how we're doing the process. It's and this is the last quasi-judicial item, so hopefully it wouldn't.
Right. Okay. So you have another 10 minutes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'll just continue on where Mr. Costello left off in terms of compatibility. Compliance with the land development regulations. We meet or exceed many of the code requirements. We did receive 3 waivers from the City Commission for front setbacks and pedestrian pathway. And in your staff report, staff highlighted that the project's compliant with 35 different LDR requirements, which I think is amazing, frankly. But there are 2 issues that we're really, I think, here to talk about tonight. The first is the loading zone. So you can see the loading zone here on the rendering. You have the trash pickup to the right and the loading zone to the left with a little turnaround there. Staff asked us to provide a turning radius for a 26-foot truck, which is provided and was provided by Simmons & White as a registered engineer. I believe it was stamped and sealed. And this also takes into account, not only shows you the fact that a 26-foot truck can make the turn into the site and out of the site, but that there's coordination of the loading zone, which will decrease conflicts. And what I mean by that is that the management company will coordinate use of the loading zone to ensure that there are no conflicts with daily trash pickup. There are 3 additional on-street parking spaces along Southeast Avenue, which I think are also important. If there is a lot of demand, that those spaces are available for people to park and walk right through the lobby. Trash pickup occurs 6 days a week in the morning per Waste Management, and there is sufficient maneuverability and turning radius provided. That's what this graphic shows right here. It shows a truck entering the site, making a turn, or making several turns, and then exiting the site. And why is this before you tonight? Because LDR section 4.610B allows the Planning and Zoning Board and ultimately the City Commission to determine if one loading space is adequate, which we think that it is. The second major issue is commercial waste. So I just want to remind everybody that even though this is a development, the property owner and developer and the management company are responsible for maintaining the public trash cans in the public realm throughout the development, which is essentially the whole block. Carts like this one shown will be used to transport waste from the commercial area to the trash room. The commercial tenant will coordinate with management, which is using these carts like this to ensure that there is no spillage or detriment to the public realm. We proposed a door on the east side of the commercial bay, which is 129 feet between the commercial bay door that we're proposing to the dumpster, allows for improved customer access to that commercial bay, And the commercial use does not permit a full restaurant, and I think that that's important. So the prospect or aspect of food and beverage waste is minimal. This is basically a diagram showing the proposed commercial square footage and its relation to the trash room. We viewed 129 feet total from this door right here all the way to the entrance of the trash room. I did some calculations yesterday, late last night actually, and found that walking 129 feet at the average speed of a human being of 1 foot per 1 over 5.133 seconds, you get about 26 seconds or 30 seconds if you're pushing a cart. And that's what you would expect to be. And by the way, you're not having somebody push a cart all day long. They're going to remove the trash canister when they need to remove it. If it's an office or something like that, it could be removed once a week. It doesn't necessarily even have to be removed on the daily, but that's up to the commercial operator. And I just want you to know, we've reached out to Waste Management, which is the city's franchise waste hauler, asking and confirming their capacity and ability to service this project. And they not only suggested 2 4-yard containers that are rotated by management when one is full, and that collection be 6 days a week from the property, but they said in their letter that based on their experience, this schedule is proven to be successful for comparable buildings. So there is the city's waste management, the city's contracted hauler saying not only they can access the site and service the site, but this schedule is going to set us all up for success. Our landscape plan. So our landscape plan has been improved throughout our process. What we've done is taken our landscape plan and highlighted all of the landscaping on the plan in terms of trees, shrubbery, etc. And you can see around the site, and we don't have a lot of space to work with, that we've made a commitment to landscaping and meeting the LDR criteria. There are 170 total trees on the landscape plan, 94 trees and 75 palm trees. 86 of those trees are native, which is more than 1,000% required by code. 57 trees are native, as are 29 palms. Native vegetation provided is 2,850 square feet, which is 62% more than the code requirement. And then 8,200 square feet of shrubs and ground cover are provided, which is almost 90% more than required. And then again, we're providing more than 7,000 square feet of civic open space, which is 23% more than required. Below in that green area is some narrative directly from your staff report. I'm not going to read it all. I don't want to waste my time or yours, but I just want to point out a couple of things. The project proposes a lush and substantial landscape plan that successfully accentuates the architecture while benefiting the public realm and creating a sense of cohesion that connects the private space with the public streetscape. Shade trees provide a pleasant environment for pedestrians that incentivizes and encourages walkability. A tiered foundation planning is provided along the building base, which helps visually enhance the streetscape and softens the mass of the structure as experienced from the sidewalk. I couldn't have said it better myself, and that is directly from your staff. Now we'll get to the architectural elevations, and there is some criteria for board action. One, whether the plan of the proposed structure is in conformity with good taste, good design, and generally contributes to the image of the city. Whether the proposed structure or project in its exterior design and appearance of quality, such as not to cause the nature of the local environment or evolving environment to materially depreciate in the appearance and value. And third is that the proposed structure or project is in harmony with proposed developments in the general area with the comprehensive plan and with supplemental criteria, which may be set forth from the board from time to time. Under that, again, highlighted is directly from your staff report that says the development is generally in conformity with good taste and good design. The overall design and quality appearance is not anticipated to materially depreciate the adjacent properties or other properties in the vicinity, and there are no specific design elements identified that are not in keeping with the architectural style or intent of the criteria for board action. And again, staff found that the project meets or exceeds 7 additional architectural standards found in the LDR requirements and is reflected in your staff report. It's a lot to talk. Elevations, here are the elevations as shown in your staff report. You have the west, east, north, and south, and generally you can see that they were more developed in our full project renderings. Incentive program. So the incentive program on getting us to up to 70 dwelling units per acre is essentially your workforce housing program. And again, the workforce housing units equals 20% here, that's 33 units. You have a breakdown of the workforce housing unit distribution. 165 total units yields 33 total units. They have to be done on site. There are other programs in the city or there are other projects in the city that have either bought out of this workforce housing requirement or have done it off-site. This program not only requires that you can't buy out of it, but these units have to be built on-site, and they are. And not only that, but we're providing them across the full range of affordability for very low, low, and moderate average income levels for Palm Beach County. And again, we're requesting 70 units to the acre and feel that that's appropriate to generate 133 workforce housing units in this area of the city.
133?
I'm sorry, excuse me, 33.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Just for the record.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So we looked in your comprehensive plan, and actually this block is designated as needing revitalization in your Always Delray comprehensive plan, and that's what we're doing with this project. We're revitalizing this block. Neighborhood support. There hasn't been any opposition to the project. The applicant has reached out to every property owner on this block and the block to the west, as well as some properties to the south. A thumbs up is an indication that the property owner supports the applications and has previously sent a letter of support that's in the city's file. Additionally, Osceola Park neighborhood is in support of the application, and Mr. Quinlan, I don't know if he's here tonight, has previously appeared here in support of this project. And again, more than 160 petitions or letters have been signed.
Mr. Schiller, your time. Let's wrap it
All
up,
right,
please.
I'll just end on this slide, which is project benefits. I don't have to read them all out for yourself, but there are a significant number of project benefits that are occurring here in addition to all of the pedestrian improvements, public art, benches, and landscaping, as well as much wider sidewalks. And then we would just ask for your approval tonight with one loading berth being acceptable, our trash route being acceptable tonight, and again, we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Schiller.
Thank you for the extra time.
No problem. Ms. Rosenberg, is it you or Mr. Godanik that is giving the presentation?
It'll be both of us, so we'll be
perfect.
splitting
Thank
the
you.
presentation. Mhm. All right, so good evening again. Alexis Rosenberg, Senior Planner for the record. So the subject property is made up of 14 parcels in the South 200 block, west of the FEC Railroad. It takes up almost the entire block, totaling about 2.3 acres. The land use designation is commercial core, and it's also zoned central business district within the railroad corridor subdistrict. The property has street frontage on all 4 sides. So we have Southeast 1st Avenue to the west and Southeast 2nd Avenue or Southeast 2nd Street to the north, which are both primary streets. And then Southeast 2nd Avenue is to the south. Southeast 3rd Avenue is to, Southeast 2nd Avenue is to the east. Southeast 3rd Street is to the south, and both are secondary streets. The proposal is for the construction of a 5-story mixed-use building known as Delray Swan, and it includes 165 residential units, 33 of which would be workforce housing units, and 2,975 square feet of commercial space. The base density in this district is 30 dwelling units per acre. However, as Mr. Schiller mentioned, the project is utilizing the city's incentive program, which allows them to establish a density of up to 70 dwelling units per acre with the provision of workforce housing. And also just wanted to note that this project did receive 3 waivers on October 10th, 2023. 2 of the waivers were to the front setback along Southeast 2nd Avenue, which is the side that faces the railroad, and the other waiver is to omit the required pedestrian passageway that cuts through the building. Giving some context to the surrounding uses, we have single-family and multifamily residences to the west, mixed use is to the north, the FEC Railway is to the east, and there's vacant land to the south. And then here is just a more zoomed out view of the property, just to give some additional context. The parcels along the west side of the subject property consist of duplexes and 7 single-family residences, and the eastern portion of the subject property is mainly light industrial and warehouse uses. And then here's a closer look at the surrounding properties. The upper left image and the lower left image are the only parcels in that block that are not part of the subject property. So that upper left image is light industrial warehouse, and then the bottom left image, which is the northwest, that is a shutter and screen repair contractor. Now just going into the renderings, just like Mr. Schiller showed, this is a view of the project from the corner of Southeast 2nd Avenue and Southeast 2nd Street. You can see the plaza, which is one of the civic open spaces on the corner, and then also the arcade with the storefront for the commercial use. Then we have the rendering along Southeast 1st Avenue, which is the side that would face the residential neighborhood. The main frontage type along the side are stoops, which serve as the entrances for the ground floor units. And also we have the pool and tot lot that face this side of the block, as well as one of the lobby entrances for the leasing office. Here is a view from Southeast 2nd Avenue and also the railroad. The ground floor is lined with commercial and some of the more back-of-house facilities, just like loading and the trash room. There's also a 5-story parking garage that faces the side with designated areas for murals, which are going to be required to be approved separately by the Public Arts Advisory Board. And here's the proposed site plan. Like we touched on, the civic open spaces are at each end of the block. They're highlighted in like a little light red color. There's also, the project also provides the minimum required streetscape on all sides of the block, and there's a 5-story parking garage that supports all of the required parking spaces for the project. The applicant is providing sidewalk connections. As mentioned, the City Commission, one of the waivers that were approved was to omit the requirement of a pedestrian passageway that would cut through the building, with the condition that a full sidewalk connection is made around the entire block, which includes there's 2 areas in the southeast corner and the northwest corner of the block that currently don't have sidewalk connection. And those areas are not immediately adjacent to the property lines. However, the applicant has agreed with the condition made by City Commission that they would provide that sidewalk connection. So it has been made a technical comment that they would have to submit those revised engineering plans, make sure that they meet all requirements of the city to make sure those connections are provided. And now Julian will go into more site plan specifics.
Hello again, board members. Julian Gdanik, Senior Planner. Welcome to our new board members. So I'm going to take over for Alexis and to just dive into some of the issues that staff has with the site plan. The applicant did touch on them briefly, but we want to give you our analysis so you can be fully informed on some of the potential issues as you decide whether or not to recommend approval of this project. And I will say, before I dive in, that this project does do a lot very, very well. It is successful in a lot of ways, but there are unfortunately some areas that we just want of concern that we want to highlight for you. One is the waste servicing solution that's been provided by the applicant for the commercial bay. So there is a trash room, a singular trash room located in the building that's meant to service the entire development. And as the applicant referenced, Waste Management has sort of certified or agreed that the volume of trash containers in this room are sufficient to accommodate the entire development if picked up 6 days a week. So that's not really an area of concern of staff's in terms of the volume. It's more how the trash gets transitioned and delivered from the commercial bay to the trash room. As shown, the trash would have to be brought out through the front entrance of the commercial bay, navigated through the arcade, which is an extension of the public sidewalk and part of the public realm, in front of the building, and then back on property into the trash room, which creates some concern. There's a sort of aesthetic impact potentially. There is potential for debris to fall off the bags, stench, smell, etc. It's just really not a preferred solution for achieving the trash service for the commercial bay. In lieu of this scenario, staff would just encourage or suggest or recommend that the applicant include an interior door so that the trash can be navigated from the commercial bay to the trash room through the interior of the building without negatively impacting the public realm. Second issue is that of the loading zone. So code has, the LDRs have a sort of guideline for what is deemed to be reasonably appropriate in terms of the number of loading zones for a project of any given size. This project, based off the square footage, it'd be recommended that 3 loading zones are provided. However, the code does allow an option where an applicant can submit a loading demand statement that justifies why less is sufficient. In this case, they're justifying that 1 is sufficient to service this development. It would be under your purview as the board to decide if you agree with that or not. Independent of that and the number of loading zones, there is some concern on the accessibility of the loading zone. The applicant has provided a turning radius that shows that a 26-foot vehicle can navigate into the maneuverability area, the drive aisle, which is intended to allow for ingress and egress off-site, but it does raise some concerns on whether or not a vehicle of that size can actually access the specific area designated as the loading zone. It may be challenging. Also, a 26-foot moving truck isn't driven by a waste management vehicle where it's a professional who does it all the time. These are, potentially driven by tenants who are not familiar with driving larger vehicles and have the necessary skill or experience to navigate tight corners. So we're a little bit concerned on whether or not larger moving vehicles can, in fact, access this loading zone and whether or not it will create a negative impact, whether that be obstructing the sidewalk, obstructing access to the trash room, etc. So just keep that in mind, consider that as you evaluate the overall site. Again, this project does a lot very well. These are just 2 areas where we think there could be some improvements made. Now, on top of that, the code requires certain findings be made regarding 4 categories to warrant approval of a site plan application. There's consistency with the land use map. We've detailed that is not an issue. It is consistent, compatible with what the land use requires. Concurrency analysis was detailed in the staff report. Other than the analysis for the waste issue that we've just touched on, it meets all requirements. There's no negative impact on the school district. Transportation in terms of traffic trips is not an issue. They're providing a very robust system of open space on the project, which is a very nice amenity to the community, and drainage is adequately met. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. I don't want to go into detail, but there are a lot of policies that are adequately met. That was detailed in the staff report with respect to the comprehensive plan, as well as how this project relates to the Osceola Park redevelopment plan. Again, in compliance with the LDRs, there's a number of areas in the CBD code that this meets and is delivering the type of project that the CBD code is envisioning. Really good connectivity to the streetscape, varied and diverse architecture. I do want to commend the applicant for proposing an architectural style that is not always seen, although it is regionally appropriate. We're getting a lot of masonry, modern, and contemporary architecture. So it's refreshing to see an applicant go in a different direction. And again, the pedestrian connectivity with the sidewalk network being fully integrated, as well as all of the benefits of the street trees and the civic space will be beneficial for this block. Speaking on the architecture, again, the applicant is proposing Anglo-Caribbean. This is a little blurb, actually. It's a little small, I can't read it, but essentially the point is that the architectural design delivers on what the design guidelines ask for. With respect to this architectural style, there's ornamentation and detailing that is consistent with the style. There's variations in the massing, both vertically and horizontally. There's a shift in material, which is customary for this style. On the ground floor, there's a stamped stucco, which is meant to sort of evoke a brick material, and then it's smooth stucco as you move forward. There are dark bronze accents on the balconies, which are meant to evoke wood. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to build with wood in coastal environments, so this applicant has elected to pursue a dark bronze material for the durability, but it still provides that sort of warmth and contrast that the style is looking for. And again, kind of everything I just said, but showing all of the elevations stacked so you can get a sense of how this project looks from all sides. We just briefly wanted to show sort of the architecture from the initial submittal to show how much progress and improvement there's been over the course of the time this application has been under review. The initial architecture isn't necessarily bad or problematic, but it isn't really true to style. It's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different influences, whereas the current submittal staff feels is a much more like pure and true rendition of Anglo-Caribbean, which we appreciate. I do want to draw your attention to two comments, though. One is a suggestion, and one is just more of an FYI. So in the renderings and the elevations, there is a bronze color that's used for the railings and the columns of the balconies. The applicant's chosen to sort of extend that to a paint color on the side of the balcony roof cover. Staff would just suggest maybe considering keeping that white to be consistent with the rest of the structural base, and then leaving the contrast to just the roof eave and the railing and the column. We feel like it's a little bit heavy if the entire wall is painted brown. It'd be just more appropriate if that was white. And then the other comment is that on the renderings there's a gray accent color shown, highlighted here. That was part of a previous rendition of this project that has been removed. The elevations that are in your package do not have the gray color. That's in line with what staff recommended as well. So staff has no issue with the gray being omitted. We actually prefer it, but we just wanted to draw your attention to that because the renderings show something slightly different than the elevations. So if you recommend approval as is, you would be recommending approval of the elevations. If you specifically like the gray color, you just have to make that known in your motion so that we know you actually want the gray color. Moving on to the landscape plan, as the applicant touched on and read from the staff report, it's a very successful landscape plan in the sense of sort of integrating the building with the public realm. There is lots of shade trees being provided, which makes it more pleasant to walk. There is civic space that's very well landscaped, and then foundation landscaping around the building, heavy landscaping in front of the garage, which is nice to soften that, and then each individual stoop and porch has landscaping around its exterior as well. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Rosenberg to talk to you briefly about the incentive program.
All right. Just to go over this, I know Mr. Schiller went over this as well. So again, the base density in this zoning district is 30 dwelling units per acre. However, the project is eligible and the applicant is taking advantage of the city's incentive program, which does allow them to go up to a density of 70 dwelling units per acre, provided that at least 20% of the overall units are provided as workforce housing units. In most of the sub-districts in the central business district, they could be provided as low and moderate. However, because this project is located within the railroad corridor sub-district, the code requires that it be equally distributed between very low, low, and moderate income levels, and that is what the applicant is proposing as well. So again, 165 units are proposed in total, and 33 of those units would be proposed as on-site workforce housing, and the applicant provided a breakdown of that. And then lastly, so here are your board motions. Again, like Mr. Bennett had mentioned, because this is a level 4 site plan, level 4 site plan, and includes a density bonus, this would be a recommendation to City Commission. I just wanted to clarify the staff report mentions or does not mention a recommendation, but this would be a recommendation. So we just wanted to make that clarification before you make your motion. And that concludes our presentation.
And thank you, Ms. Rosenberg, Mr. Gdanek. And now is the time for public comment. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item, now would be the time to do so. Approach the podium. Seeing and hearing none, public comment is closed.
Gee, now you know.
We have one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alice. I didn't see you. You got to move, girl.
Alice Vince, 707 Place Tavant.
Mrs. Fence, were you sworn in?
I was here.
Okay.
I am wondering, such large buildings, are they invading the privacy of the residential streets and areas behind them? Are they casting shadows over them? I think there needs to be more conversation about the height and shape of this building and how it's affecting the neighborhood's residential buildings behind it and around it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Anyone else? Public comment is closed. To the applicant and the city staff, rebuttal or cross-examination. Mr. Schiller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just have some brief rebuttal. A couple of things. One, as far as the waste issue, I've spoken with my client and we've agreed to install the doorway and make the trash internal. So I hope that satisfies that issue. And my client doesn't necessarily want to do that, but we're doing that for the betterment of the project, and thank you for that to staff. Second, the loading zone. So I don't know if I can go back to it, but the document provided, the drawing provided shows that a 26-foot truck can enter and make the turn and exit. May not all be in one movement. It may not be, but it's possible. I looked at, and staff brought this up when they were talking about professional drivers. So I looked at a 26-foot box truck. A 26-foot box truck normally weighs about 26,000 pounds, which is the same weight. You must have a commercial driver's license if you're operating that vehicle. Secondly, I looked at the U-Haul website. U-Haul is, as you know, a very common place to rent vehicles like this, large box trucks. So U-Haul has options for a 10-foot, 15-foot, 20-foot, and 26-foot box truck. Now, what they recommend on their website is that a 10-foot box truck is for a studio or one-bedroom apartment. 15-foot truck is for a one-bedroom home or a two-bedroom apartment. A 17-foot truck is for a home up to 2 bedrooms. A 20-foot truck is for a 2-bedroom home to a 3-bedroom apartment. And a 26-foot truck is for a 3-bedroom home to a 4-bedroom home. I'm saying this because the likelihood of a 26-foot truck being used for these 165 units is small, because the U-Haul just told me that this is for a 3-bedroom home to a 4-bedroom home, and we all know what it costs to move these days. And so I don't foresee anybody, and it's not reasonable to foresee anybody using a truck bigger than what they actually need. And plus the fact we're not offering anything more than a 3-bedroom apartment here. And according to U-Haul, which I would take as the authority, that only requires a 20-foot box truck. And so I would, again, ask this board to determine that one loading zone for these 165 units and less than 3,000 square feet of commercial is adequate as provided by your code. And that's it. Please vote for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rosenberg, Mr. Gedanik?
Yeah, just a quick comment in response. So the applicant is completely correct that not every instance that someone is moving, they would use a 26-foot truck. But there is a possibility that sometimes they would use a 26-foot truck. It might be 1% of the time, it might be less, it might be 10, we don't really know. But in our opinion, when evaluating the site for sufficiency, it should account for whether or not something is satisfactory in all situations. And I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Rosenberg?
No additional rebuttal.
Thank you. To the board, I can start on my right with Mr. Savage. Do you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
Mr. Kostarfin?
Yes, I do. Actually, just a few questions I do have. First, I'll start with staff. Is based on your experience and your expertise, is there other projects that have taken place in the city of this magnitude that only have one loading dock?
So I'm not aware offhand of any that only have one. There may be some, there may not be. I'm hesitant to say anything definitively because I don't really know. I know this is sort of an interesting situation in terms of this lot is a little bit unique in that there's no alley on the rear. A lot of the developments of similar size have, rear-facing alleys, so it does make it a little bit easier to accommodate loading zones because you have that extra accessibility point. Yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I can't really think definitively if there is or is not one that has one loading zone.
The second question would be to staff as well. Based on the City Commission recommendation, how many of those requirements has been met based on the recommendation? Well, based on the waiver that's been requested, have all those recommendations been met?
So are you referring to the conditions that the condition put on the approval of the waiver?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, so the condition that was put on one of the waivers, two were approved without condition, which were the setback waivers off of 2nd Avenue. The condition the commission put on the project was that the the sidewalk network around the perimeter of the block needed to be connected in order for them to support the omission of the pedestrian passageway that would cut the middle of the block. That is on its way to being met. Essentially, the applicant is working with our engineering division behind the scenes to ensure that the improvements in the public right-of-way meet engineering standards, but there are no changes that would be required to their private property that would differ from what's shown currently. It would only be within the public right-of-way.
Okay, and the only other one other question, as far as workforce housing, who monitor that to ensure that those is met, those requirements are met, those steps?
Yeah, so that would be usually when they submit for permitting, they provide additional paperwork that goes through our neighborhood services department. Is there anything else to add?
Yeah, so Neighborhood and Community Services has a subdivision that monitors that. So there'll actually be a formal covenant that will need to be executed and recorded in the public record. And right now it's Furlene and Ellen are the two that generally handle monitoring. So there's monthly reporting, so they have to provide numbers every month that show how many units are workforce housing, how many are occupied, confirm the occupants' income to ensure that they qualify as workforce housing occupants. So we have a whole department here that monitors that situation with workforce housing.
Yes. All right, and the last thing is I express my concern in knowing from my expertise of just being familiar with these type of projects and being on site a lot of these projects. I definitely have a concern with that loaded with the trash area. I would be hard to say I would agreed to vote yes for this project with the size of that, just being on construction site and knowing what type of trucks goes there. And I know the point was made that the max size is 3-bedroom units, but we can really determine on what type of vehicle that people are going to be using to move in or deliver to those loading docks. It could be a 26-foot truck, but it could also be a 53-foot truck as well if someone is moving. You never know where they're coming from. So I'll be concerned with that.
May I respond, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So, again, I think it's important to note that Southeast 2nd Avenue is the location for the loading zone and the trash pickup numbers 1 and 2. Additionally, right outside of the loading zone are 3 on-street parking spaces where if a truck is larger and feel that they can't make the turn and those spaces are available, they can use those 3 parking spaces to basically park their truck and gain access to the building that way. Number 3 is that obviously we've been working with engineering and our engineers as well for a multitude of months, and we feel like the loading zone is more than appropriate again for 165 units. I do want to call up Mr. Costello because he has information about similarly situated buildings and their loading zones, a question that you asked staff, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Okay. Before you come, one more question.
Sure.
And this is for staff. Based on the presentation, saying that trash will be picked up 6 days a week, early mornings, is there anything to interfere as far as noise ordinance to prevent them from starting at a certain hour for trash pickup?
So I know there is a city noise ordinance. I'm not sure if it speaks specifically towards trash pickup. I can look that up for you if you give me a second.
And the reason I asked that question because, again, working on these projects, these type of projects, I know there's certain times that you can only start at 8 o'clock in the morning times for most of the projects. I don't know any projects other than all the projects actually should start around 8 o'clock. And so I don't know if it's the same for here in the city of Delray Beach or different.
Are you talking about construction activity or just commercial trash
Just
pickup?
any type of once the people move into the facilities, any type of contracted services is being provided for that location. Typically have some type of noise ordinance of when they can start their first delivery or pickup or what have you. And so I'm trying to inquire: is there something here for the city?
I understand.
So it's specifically related to
microphone.
Hello. It's specifically related to construction activity. In the CBD in the downtown area, you will witness trash pickup occurring in the early hours, and that's intentional. In my neighborhood, they picked it up at 6:30 this morning, but that's in Delray Beach. So, but that's what happens, and so that's I do not believe there's a noise ordinance related to the pickup, but in the CBD, you have it regular.
So section 99.03 of the Code of Ordinances is loud and unnecessary noises prohibited. And I believe it's section A6 is refuse collection vehicles. It just says no person shall collect refuse with a refuse collection vehicle between the hours of 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. So those vehicles should be able to operate as early as 6 a.m.
Awesome. Thank you.
So 6:30. It fits right in
Yeah.
my neighborhood. May I, Madam Chair, to follow up. So there is a project, and I'm just going to bring up Worthing Place. And so for that particular project, the loading for the residential and actual dumpsters are off the Southeast 2nd Avenue. And so it looks very similar. They look like parallel spaces, but it's designated loading zone and that's purely the moving. The primary time you're going to get the largest activity is when the first move in, okay?
I don't know if that's your best example.
Well,
Worthing, because people park, you get the trucks that load on the street. Let's not bring them up.
Well, okay, but that's one where their loading areas. Ours is actually on site, and so with regard to the 26-foot the radius, the turning. The request for us was to show how it could go through the circular drive. The vehicle can go into the loading area, and even the maneuvering can back in with a little maneuvering. That's what loading trucks do. That's what deliveries do. Again, to our Mr. Schiller's example, typically you're not going to get the worst case scenario. Occasionally there'll be a couple maneuvers, but there's sufficient space to maneuver into the loading bay as necessary for the delivery of the furniture or whatever they may have.
First, thank you so much for adding the trash indoor door so that it alleviates the stress on the board. And I want to make sure that I say this properly because I don't want to compare DC to our beautiful city. But I lived in DC for 4 years, a split time. And the building that I lived in, the building next door to that, was on a main street that had a garage door for loading and for trash pickup. Now, the most inconvenient part was when you were moving in, because if you had more than one person vying for a spot to have it for a 2-hour window, to have your truck there and go to your apartment, it became hard and difficult, especially to organize with the cost of having a big truck there. So typically, and I know we shouldn't say whether or not people are going to take a larger truck or not, but typically the price of trucks and gas are so expensive right now to rent, such as U-Haul, that expense isn't done unless perhaps it's shared. So maybe me and my friend are moving in and we share it. But I didn't see any issue with how it was using one loading and trash, and that was literally a garage door. So again, I don't want to compare our lovely, wonderful city of Delray to DC, but it worked out a lot smoother than it looks to be on paper, and that's all I have to say.
Ms. Morrison?
Thanks for adding the door, Neil. That was a good improvement. And you've agreed to the condition that the sidewalks would be as per the city engineers, right?
Yes,
You agree to that?
the conditions of approval from the previous pedestrian pathway waiver, yes, we 100% agree to that.
Okay. Now with the loading, most of these apartments are going to be market rate,
Yes.
like 80% of them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So market rate for apartments right now is about $250 a foot, $275 a foot. So for a 1,000 square foot apartment, that's $2,500 a month. These are not going to be insignificant rents.
Right.
So people at that stature have stuff moving in.
Sure.
I don't see a loading elevator. It looks like the freight elevator's in the middle of a hallway here, so I don't know if it's defined. Near the loading dock. So how are they going to get their stuff out of the loading into the...
Can we zoom in?
Mr. Gdanik, did you have?
Yeah.
Was that a concern for staff? Or?
So, and the applicant correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the only elevator stack for the building. So I believe it would be expected that loading and freight would occur there as well.
So P1 and P2 are the only elevators?
Right.
To the best of my
entire
knowledge,
project?
yeah.
Yes.
So what's that FFE elevator one that's not a freight elevator? FFE.
FFE is the finished floor elevator.
Finished floor elevator. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Got confused.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you.
But
So so now we have a loading dock and using a passenger elevator. Okay, I guess that's acceptable. Most high-rise buildings do that.
yes.
Yeah, and just to sort of elaborate on that, staff sort of raised the question whether or not that was sufficient during our technical review. At the end of the day, if it meets building code requirements for the volume of elevators, we don't really have a way to enforce them to put more in, and if they feel that that's sufficient, that's sort of their prerogative. So we kind of left it at that.
Okay. Those were my main concerns. I see lots of bike parking. I see electric parking. So you've covered all the 21st century stuff. And just my main concern is walkability, to make sure that you put those sidewalks in so people can get from one side of the building to the other and, get around town without too much inconvenience.
100%, and are improving the pedestrian network with all of these sidewalks and covered sidewalks and shade trees and benches, to me and to our developer and our client, is one of the major benefits of this project. I mean, we're really making an unwalkable block completely walkable. And to your point, people that are moving in here have stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so important that management controls that loading zone. So I remember when I lived in an apartment, I had to book that loading zone a week or two in advance to make sure that my truck was able to drop off whatever they were dropping off. And so the same with this apartment building, they will have complete control over that loading zone, and management will be on top of it. They have to be.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Schneider?
Yeah, I like a lot about this. I praise you on the architecture. I think it's really nice, and especially compared to the original and the new one, it really looks good. And the same for the landscaping. The continuous sidewalk, I was concerned about that. Workforce housing part obviously exactly fits the rules and is fine. And the other two things were the access to the trash, which if you put in an internal corridor, that's good. And,
Yep.
and that leaves the loading, which is a concern to everybody. I kind of don't see a way around it unless you take out an apartment. But you're saying that the management will control the access, but do we need to have that specified? Because that's going to be the key to the whole thing, that there has to be some way to specify that. And I'll let staff say something.
I'm just going to look to Mr. Bennett on that.
Mr. Bennett, can we even do that with a private kind of thing?
Give me a minute because I'm processing.
Do you have any other questions or anything while he's figuring?
No, I just don't know how to say this politely.
So I think sometimes we do require a community to have an HOA, but that's when there's more like common elements, common areas. Is that something that's happening in this project, that there'll be some type of?
No, it's a rental.
No, I mean, this is all for rent, so I wouldn't anticipate them having an HOA.
So we,
Speaking of the mic.
So
I mean, that sounds like a policy procedure thing for the.
Yeah, it's really an internal operational issue. And what's going to happen is if they fail to adhere to some type of program like that, you're going to end up with a lot of conflict, and the vehicles will be in the street, or there'll be other issues that will be enforceable through code.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the board necessarily has the ability to place a condition that there be a management company at all times that is specifically managing the operations of comings and goings in the elevator. But if it does become an issue that's impacting the community, then there should be mechanisms through code enforcement to correct that action.
Yeah, I think that's adequate, in my opinion, as far as that goes, as long as there's some way to avoid anarchy, I guess.
I don't think the property owner wants anarchy.
Yeah, I wouldn't think the property owner does want
Doesn't want
to be
anarchy.
that way. So having said all that, yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's a good addition, and I think we beat this thing up once before.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Mr. Kostarkin?
I think that was a very good question. If there's not a way to enforce that, to ensure that's happening, if the management company is going to make sure that doesn't happen, then you're asking the board to approve this project based on your word that the management company will have to manage that.
Wow.
And there should be something in place.
That's kind of like the way it is. And that's why we have code enforcement.
Yes.
You have to take people at their word, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're putting it on the record tonight that a management company is going to be overseeing that loading zone. And if I could make it a condition of approval, I'm happy to.
One of the things I've seen on some of the projects like this to manage this, people moving in by floors. They don't allow people to move in all at one time. They do first floor, second floor, and then next week they'll do That's where I've seen people.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
That's something we'll definitely bring back to our client. And I can only hope that we're sold out before construction occurs.
Yeah, probably.
Mark my words.
Okay, my turn, Mr. Schiller. As far as the loading zone is, can we go back to that picture that was more focused in on it? Okay. Yeah. You know, I see the bigger picture of the lot size is very unique, and I don't know how we would fit 3 loading. Of course, I'm not an engineer or architect, but it seems like because of the shape and size of the site itself, and with no alleyways, as staff pointed out, I mean, I can't see where we would put another loading zone. But like I said, I'm not an architect or an engineer, so you know, I'm sure that there's probably a way. What is the use of the loading zone going to be, generally speaking? Because you only have one commercial tenant.
It's going to be for move in, move out. That's going to be the largest demand for that loading zone.
UPS, FedEx.
Amazon will park on the street. They'll park in front of the trash area.
So then my next question is, as far as parallel parking spots go along that area, where are they in relation to the loading zone? I know you said there were 3, but
Yes.
are there any other ones in this like local area? And is there a mail room?
Yeah.
There's a mail room?
There's a mail room.
Yeah, it's on
and
there.
that's where, that's what,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, and so, I mean, like if FedEx has opportunities, and yeah, it's in the circular drive, they just park in a travel.
Right, and they sit.
But in this case here, we were going to work with Public Works in order to provide signage for 3 parallel spaces that limit a time period for those activities, because you want the public space, especially in the evening, and then typically those loading does not occur at that time.
Okay, because that's my main concern when I see that it's a smaller. I don't think that once you get occupied, people aren't going to be moving in every day. I don't think. But as far as deliveries, that happens all day, every day. Amazon, whoever, and I just don't want them. I see them all the time, like sit and take up a whole loading zone and do whatever they have to do and organize their truck. So it goes back to what my colleague said about internally, your internal systems, making sure that. If we're only going to give you your justification, I read your justification statement, is that there are parallel spots and there's other alternatives, especially with mail, that you would be able to, in lieu of 3 whole loading zones that you're going to manage really well, the loading zone you do get to mitigate any kind of problem that could foreseeably happen. Because if the city commission, whoever says, okay, go ahead, and there's a problem, then, it's always like come back and smack you. Okay, and nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Okay, so that's my concern with that. As far as the turning radius of the loading zone, I mean, I see people parallel park with much less room, and they do fine. So I think it'll be okay. And it's, where it's located, we're not talking about it's down further from the activity of Atlantic Avenue. It's not that busy of an area. Thank you for putting the internal door in, because that was a problem for me. Okay. I know that the commercial space, and there is no current use for a restaurant use. Is there any thought in the future of making that one commercial space some sort of cafe, deli, restaurant in your mind?
I don't believe so. We'd have to process a change of use application with their staff in order to turn it into a restaurant.
Because, I just have concerns about parking, parallel space, everything that would come with that, the loading zone.
That'd be evaluated at that time.
Because if you do want, the loading zone relief, and you're going to put a restaurant there, that's ridiculous, because then that would never work. Then we would have the same problem we have in the ancillary streets downtown, where you have trucks just
parking there.
And then obviously the sidewalk connectivity is going to be important, and that's going to be a restrictive covenant on the land. Is that how that's going to work, or before you even get approval final from commission?
Before we even get approval.
So we're going to see you again at Platt. So
the workforce housing or the sidewalks?
No, the sidewalks.
The sidewalks.
Okay, so the sidewalks, it's the off-site sidewalks.
Yes.
It's part of the condition of approval, and we're going to show it on the civil engineering plans, which are in review. We revised them because they're ensure that they meet ADA compliance, so they're currently back in review. Those are shown, unfortunately, on that site. Well, it does show them
a little bit.
A little bit. So it's a tough maneuver, but we're going to provide those there, and it's a condition of approval. You're correct. We're coming back with a major subdivision plat because we're extending water main, sewer main, new sewer main, and we'll adjust the final engineering at that time.
Okay, perfect. Otherwise, I just want to thank you for all the work that your team has done on this project over the time that it's been in the city.
Thank you.
And I'm in favor. And if there's no further comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, the only recommendation I would make is that when a motion is made, it be as amended to create an internal access for the trash access.
And wasn't there one more?
Sidewalks as the
Sidewalk.
city engineer.
Sidewalk.
My understanding is that's already subject. That's already a condition that they're subject to. It's just that they are.
Did Ms. Rosenberg want us to add something?
So the sidewalk is already a condition of approval on their waiver that commission approved. You would want to confirm if you do or do not want the gray color that was shown in the rendering.
That's right.
We don't want the gray.
No gray. No gray. Okay.
Nor
Applicant
the
doesn't want gray.
We're getting rid of the brown.
And we're getting rid of the brown on the upper.
Eliminate gray and
Are you going to
brown.
eliminate the brown?
Up.
It's like a bronze.
As indicated on the.
Just on
the
side.
Just on that top right.
Just on that.
Yeah,
top
not the columns or railings or.
Just the brown. You see what happens when you get involved with site plan. What do you mean you're going to take that color away? Okay. Well, I can entertain a motion that includes the amendment.
Holy cow. What's the other condition is internal?
The internal doorway.
Internal doorway to the trash. Let me try this.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Schneider.
Is this the right one? No,
It's on the-
this
it's
is
on
the
the-
right one. I got the right. I got too many things in front of me.
I know.
Move approval as amended of the level 4 2022-063 site plan, landscape plan, and architectural elevations for Delray Swan, a approximately 304,506 square foot, 5-story mixed-use building, including a revitalization incentive density bonus of up to 70 dwelling units per acre at 118 Southeast 2nd Street, 240, 258, 264, and 280 Southeast 2nd Avenue, and 215, 219, 223, 227, 231, 237, 243, 251, and 253 Southeast 1st Avenue by finding that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the criteria set forth in land development regulations with the following conditions: that the surface not include gray, that the overhangs above the balconies be white, not brown, and that an internal access door to the trash room will be installed.
And then just really quick, just for clarification for the record, it would be a recommendation of approval as amended, not approval as amended. I just wanted to make sure that that was.
Recommend approval as amended. Okay, let's amend the motion.
Second.
Diane, please call the roll. I believe the second was Ms. Thomas.
Chris Brown absent. Aaron Savage.
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
Julian Blankenship.
Yes.
Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Gregory Snyder.
Yes.
Morris Christopherson.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Have a nice day. Happy holidays.
Congratulations.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah.
That's why I came. That's why I came. I'm telling you. Mark my words.
What, did I read the wrong thing?
Mr. Rosen.
So, Chair, there's just a quick point of order on the next item. Technically, there is a small area of the West Atlantic Neighborhood Subdistrict that is, I believe, in the West Settlers Historic District. So under the land development regulations, this board should make a recommendation after Historic Planning Board has provided a recommendation. If you want, we can do a presentation tonight, so if there's any issues that you'd like to inform staff about. They can review those before it would come back to you. But underneath our procedures, it should go to HPB before this board makes a recommendation. So it's up to board's discretion if you want to skip this item and move on, or take a brief presentation, and it would be part of the record if it came back to you guys.
It's up to my colleagues. I mean, I don't see, if they give us a presentation now, they're gonna have to come back and give us a presentation when it's our turn to weigh in on it.
Well, at a minimum, they'd have to call the item again.
Okay,
You
let's
could
not
skip
do
the
that.
presentation, but
Yeah,
the item
yeah.
would need to come back.
Okay, let's not, and then we'll let them do that when it comes forward. If that's okay with Ms. Dossery, unless you would rather do the presentation tonight, then I'm more than happy.
We skipped the typical order only because the exemption that
What is? Okay, we got.
Poltergeist.
I know. I think it was Mr. Snyder's computer.
Yeah.
the exemption expires on December 31st, 2023. So we were hoping to bring it back, but we'll just bring it to you in December and then get it approved in January instead.
Are you sure? Because you can do the presentation now if you'd
That's
rather.
okay.
Okay.
We'll skip.
Thank you. So do we need to table that or something, or because it's not a quasi? So is it just?
No, it's just a legislative item.
It only pertains to existing properties, right? It doesn't pertain to anything new coming out of the ground.
No.
Right, okay.
And in effect, what would happen is on when the current expiration date occurs, someone could not apply for the incentive, but whenever it's passed and the date is officially changed, then there'll just be that small gap in time when someone could not apply for the incentive, which shouldn't cause much delay or be a major issue. But it's just a motion to amend the agenda to remove item 10A.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Diane, please call the roll.
Chris Brown absent. Aaron Savage.
Yes.
Christina Morrison.
Yes.
Julian Blankenship.
Yes.
Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Gregory Snyder.
Yes.
Morris Costarfin.
Yes.
Thank you. Staff and comments?
Only that our next meeting is December 18th, and we are happy to welcome all of you to the board that are new.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney?
Just want to welcome at least two new members for me, Mr. Starfin and Mr. Savage. I hope I said those both correctly. Ms. Thomas, it's good to see you again, just on a different board. I also want to introduce Ms. Daniela Vega, who recently joined our office. She's been observing, so you may see her sometimes in the rotation when one of us is not available for our normal boards.
Is she an attorney?
Yes, she is.
Oh, welcome
Yes.
aboard.
Sorry if I did not make that clear.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, you did it.
With
We
our
all
office.
understand.
Yes.
His organization.
Yes, she's in your building.
Correct, yes. A reminder, if you haven't done your ethics training, to please do so. If you did ethics training in the past, they're good for 2 years, so just keep that in mind if you do need to update that. If you need help with that, please reach out to the clerk's office or Ms. Miller, your liaison. Regarding training, Development Services Director, Ms. Gianotis, and the City Attorney, Ms. Jellin, are working on actually an instructional video. So instead of taking up time potentially in a meeting, you may be able to watch that video on your own to give you some guidance. And what we would normally do is our either group training or individual trainings per board. Just two things quickly, because I have two members. I'm not sure if you've been on boards before. The two main things that I'll point out today are just the sunshine rules. So you're not able to discuss anything that could reasonably come before the board in the future with other board members. So just be cognizant of that. Doesn't mean you can't talk to each other at all. Just don't talk about anything that might reasonably be coming before the Planning and Zoning Board. And the other issue I'll just briefly talk about is public records. Any communication that you make or any document you create in relevance to your position on the board is a public record, whether it's your personal cell phone text messages, whether it's your personal cell phone call log, whether it's your personal email account. If you send or receive an email that's related to your duties on the board, that is a public record. Please make sure that if you don't have it already, get access to your city email address If you get public comments from people to your personal email because you work or live in Delray or both, can happen, just forward it to your work email address so that we have a copy of it in case we get a public records request. Okay, and that's it on my list, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments from my board members, my colleagues? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Miller.
I do, and this is just for the record. I just want to make sure on the agenda for the Delray Swan, it just said recommendation to the City Commission. On the staff report, it just said move approval of amendment, and
It was a recommendation, and I believe Mr. Snyder may have said move to approve at one point, but that was clarified before it was second that it's a motion to recommend.
okay, so we don't need to say recommend to who? To the City?
City Commission.
Okay, that was not said
I
on the
say that
record.
was not clear.
Right,
Yeah.
just want to make sure for the record,
Yeah.
that's all.
Any of my colleagues on the board have any comments or anything to say? Motion to adjourn.
I know you're not allowed to ask me.
All right. So, thank you so much.